Welcome back to West Texas View.
Before the break, we were talking about this decision that Jim made and to give a kidney to a stranger. He simply knew his husband at work and didn't know her hardly at all. And so I want you to tell me, Linda, what was your reaction when Jim came home and said, by the way, you have a donor?
Well, Jim had tried so hard to give me a kidney. He went through everything. He was just determined. And when he makes up his mind, he really works at it. And then when it failed, he was so devastated. And then he came home one day and he just said, I have somebody that wants to give you a kidney. And he told me about Jim Shoemaker. And I said, what? I don't even know him. Why would he do that? Because I don't know him. I mean, you know, you think about people that you know and that you interact with all the time.
Or even your best
or your
friend might.
Right.
but might not.
A stranger, I was just totally shocked. I could not believe that anybody could be that caring and that giving.
But you know, even when Jim said, I'll do it, the chances of his matching and all the ways that have to be matched is, again, a miracle in itself.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it really is. It's you know, it's not a simple thing, and they really, Linda's said over and over to me, and I've heard her say in other situations, that the hospitals that do this, they want success stories, and so they're going to do everything they can to make sure that this is going to work right. If there's any chance at all of it being a failure, they don't want that on their record. And so the hospitals are really working, and they do everything possible
for the donor and the recipient.
For the donor and the recipient to make sure everything's going to work right. And it does so many things. You know, one of the great things it did for me is it just kind of took away from me the thought of ever wanting to run a marathon. One of the things they tell you...
I can always have an excuse for anything.
One of the things they tell you when you give a kidney is you really want to avoid ever being dehydrated and whatever. And I figured if you ever ran a marathon, you'd get dehydrated. And so I just had marked that off on my list. The furthest I ever want to run is
I don't care anything about Linda and Jim, but I just don't want to have to.
Yeah, it gave me a great excuse. But it really did help me focus on my own personal health as well, and realizing that God had been good to me, and at 68 I was in good enough health to do that, and that if I would take care of myself, I could expect to live a long life. And I have great genes for doing that. My parents both lived till late 92 and 87, and you know, and I have every reason to believe I'm going to do that. But it just really has not impacted my life and my wife's life in any way other than positive. We just feel like we inherited a whole new family, and our children have been amazing in their support, and my wife
has to be influenced.
Yes.
Yeah. My grandson, just this last year in school, was asked to write a story about a hero, and
you were it, and you know. What a legacy that will be for your children and yours, to tell the story of how God made all this happen.
That's
right.
And to know that is the memory He's going to have of you, of giving.
Right. And so many people don't realize, you know, like Jim has said, you can put on your driver's license, I want to be a donor, but you don't think about all the things, whether it's bone marrow or kidney or part of a liver. You can give part of a liver or tissue or anything like that you can give and not really impact your life, but affect so many other people, not only the other family, but the people they know. I mean, when we tell people our story, and there's so many stories like ours, people are just, they don't believe it.
And they'll say, gosh, I wonder what I'd do in a situation
what
like
I could
that.
do.
Would I do like Jim, or would I say, not me? And because a lot of people overthink it. Oh, I'll think of all the bad things that could happen rather than to think, look what a blessing that's going to make in my life. But Jim, the fact that you went through a struggle with your own wife's breast cancer, and it was a real scary time. And yet, you were blessed with a healing, and so being a cancer survivor, then you understand how important it is for the support network.
And I think that's one of the things that made Charlene so supportive, is we had received so much encouragement and so much help during her breast cancer that she went through, that you know, she knew how important it was for people to enjoy good health, and to think about the fact that we could have this impact. And neither of us really had any understanding at all about how much impact it would make in Linda's life and her family life before we got into the process and began to hear, you know, the story of the fact that they could not go out to dinner and they couldn't do things and
that we take for granted.
That we take so for granted. And one of the things I'm so thankful for today is, you know, in our culture now, social media has just done all kinds of things. And there are people now who read a story on Facebook and make a decision to be an organ donor. And so we can, if we begin to talk about it and begin to think about it, we can begin to change some of these numbers about how long people have to wait to find a donor.
Yeah, can you imagine you're living for, what was it, 164 months. Which
Waiting.
is the equivalent of 14 years. Most people don't live that long.
No, because when you have, especially with a kidney, and I'm sure with other organs that I don't know about, but when you're on dialysis or anything like that, it affects all your other organs because it's so traumatic on your body that it deteriorates everything. And so you know, the quickest way to get the news out there that people can be organ donors and, you know, and still survive as Jimmy has, that's what it's all about. That's what we want to do. We want people to know. We want to share what God's done for us.
We're going to have to take a break right now, but we'll come back and complete this conversation and this series of programs. And I want to remind you that you need to really, really prayerfully consider becoming an organ donor. We'll be back right after the break.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.